Thank you, Jillian, and thank you for everyone who's attending today. We're really happy that you're here and excited to give you an overview of ISG Inform. Wanted to start out by just giving you a high-level view of what ISG Inform is, and then we're going to dive right into giving you some views of the product and how it works. And then at the end, we'll talk a little bit about the use cases that our clients have found for the product, as well as the type of people within their organization that have found the results and output really useful. So the sort of the personas of who has been able to leverage the information out of ISG InformX. So what is ISG InformX? It is a data as a service or software as a service on-demand tool that is available for access to our users through the web. And what it brings to life is the data that we've collected over the years from our clients from a price as well as a total cost of ownership of IT services. It's fairly easy to use. Our clients have told us it's really intuitive in terms of inputting their data and then getting the results out from a peer comparative basis. And it's divided into a set of different views, one view being a view of metrics that a CIO might be interested in from IT as a percent of revenue compared to his industry or her industry, IT spend per user, CapEx versus OpEx spend. So just those higher level metrics that would really be meaningful from a comparison perspective from your industry or your revenue size. Then we move into other dashboards that will show you from a services area or a tower perspective, those key cost, quality, and productivity measures, as well as then a digital framework that allows you to understand the value that you're deriving from your digital initiatives. And we'll talk a little bit about these as we move through the presentation. But really at the crux of it, allowing you to understand where you compare to your peers from different perspectives gives you powerful information in making new decisions and in driving change in IT, as well as articulating the value of IT to your business. We found it's a great tool for you to help optimize the solutions that you're bringing to the business, as well as helping to track and manage where your productivity, your quality, as well as your review. So what we wanted to do first is give you just a quick polling question, make this a bit interactive. And Jillian's going to explain to us how we would move into the first polling question.
Yes, thank you, Kathy. I am sending the first polling question to the audience now. You will hear an audible alert when it pops up on your screen. And we'll give you guys just a few seconds to answer. But the first question we have for you is, do you currently measure and report the cost, quality, and efficiency of your IT operations?
So this is really, sort of a core question. Are you able to report the cost by service area? Do you have quality measures that you're reporting? And in terms of efficiency, when I think of that as being the productivity of your teams and delivering the products and services back out to your business. So thinking about that, are you currently measuring cost, quality, and productivity, or efficiency? And see what sort of results we're getting.
Yep, we'll give everyone just a few more seconds, but it looks like we're leaning toward yes, they do currently measure.
Oh, good. So yeah, most people are measuring in some way the cost, quality, and efficiency of their IT operations. So as we go through this, it'll be interesting for you to start to think about how you're measuring it compared to the way we're looking at the world in ISG Inform. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Chris Corrales now, and Chris is going to take us through some of the ways that we use Inform, as well as give you some of the views of the dashboards and how it is applied in real life. So Chris, do you want to take it away?
Yep, thanks Kathy. So ISG Inform can transform your IT financial data into a market-aligned model with metrics and KPIs that you can review, whether you're running, through TBM or you have your own Excel workbooks or other tools that are collecting and sort of managing your own IT financial data. ISG Inform can take that data and transform it through, IT financial data, different service breakdowns, which are, standardized, defined, and segmented, and then we go and collate that data into a standard model and buckets. And so once you combine sort of your IT financial data with volume and personnel information and input that into the ISG Inform tool, you can hit the Save and Display button, and the data is then translated into these market-aligned metrics and KPIs. And so you can see your data after you hit Save and Display compared to industry and market data, which is on the left, and calculated variances either above or below the market, all across the industry-aligned metrics that we have in ISG Inform. So this screen here is showing our CIO dashboard. This view covers about 10 different key performance indicators that are intended to measure overall performance across information technology. Typically, this is going to be like the name intends, the CIO view of the IT environment. And from there, you can drill down into other service areas. You can even drill down within the CIO dashboard itself to get further information on some of these metrics that you're seeing. Things like IT spend as a percent of revenue is a really desired and interesting metric that we see across a number of industries and a number of advisors that really look to sort of define cost, overall IT, in terms compared to other market comparators. But we also have in here breakdowns between different services, different cost pools, CapEx versus OpEx, run, change, transform, and all of that is shown on that easy to view and consume dashboard.
Chris, do you want to talk a little bit about where the data comes from that's in the dashboard?
Sure. So the data gets populated and refreshed with validated benchmarks that we perform across a number of different industries and across the globe. So ISG has been doing benchmarking for over 30 years now. We have a global practice. We have a lot of really great large companies in Fortune 500, Fortune 1000, and we take all of that data as we go through those individual benchmark projects. We validate it, we compare it to the market, and then that data gets input into our database, which then feeds the dashboard views.
Thanks.
So the market data, just to give a bit more information on that, can be filtered a number of different ways. So as I mentioned, we do a lot of work across different industries, across different regions and different revenue sizes. And so for each of those, in the CIO dashboard specifically, there are different filters that will update the market data. And so for example, you can select an industry and it will update the industry data on the dashboard screen along with the calculated variances. And as you're in the tool, you can review those different filters. You can click through and the numbers compared to your scenario data will seamlessly change and update as you wish. Beyond the CIO dashboard, ISG Inform has additional drill downs that go into other information technology services, and they have a similar structured format that we saw on the CIO dashboard. So for instance, we have an IT infrastructure view that goes into standard IT service areas and has more detailed metrics that drill down into the cost, performance, quality, efficiency of your organization. Same thing in the application space. We look at maintenance and development, and again, different ways to look at your unit costs, different cost breakdowns. There's different productivity and activity measures that can be compared to market to understand how I'm doing, in relation to my development hours versus my testing hours, things like that. And then we also have a digital dashboard which measures the capabilities, the value, and benefits that you're seeing from your digital initiatives. So digital is really big right now. Everyone's trying to digitize their data, digitize their services, digitize their workforce. And so this dashboard is intended to give you an idea of how you're looking, say, on the continuum within artificial intelligence or cognitive or machine learning and digital marketing. All of those areas are captured in this dashboard to provide you a view of your performance within those digital transformation initiatives.
And what I think is kind of interesting here, Chris, is that it helps you understand where your peers, your industry peers, are placing their bets. So where are they spending their time, money, and dollars in their digital transformation? Is it Internet of Things? Is it automation? Is it cloud? So where are they really focusing their dollars and their teams and their people? But it also, because of the number of responses that are in the tool itself, it helps you understand where they're also seeing that value. And when I say value, has it improved their efficiency or their margins? Has it increased their their client satisfaction with their products and services? And has it increased their revenue? And it gives you those perspectives based on the responses that we've had to the digital framework already. So it's pretty interesting in that it shows you by industry or revenue size, but a lot of folks are really concerned like, what are others in my industry doing and where are they seeing the value and the benefits? And that's what this digital dashboard will show you.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, and for example, we had within the digital dashboard a Center of Excellence summary. So we asked companies that did a digital transformation benchmark where they have centers of excellence formally set up and they have teams that are running those areas. And digital marketing was one where, the vast majority of companies have a center of excellence in digital marketing and have capabilities there, which makes sense because we've seen a lot of digital marketing, within the last 5-10 years, especially with social media and other initiatives that are going on. But when it comes to more emerging technologies like blockchain or artificial intelligence, AR, VR, those types of center of excellences are in the minority. And so if you're working in those spaces, you may have a specific industry business need for that, or it may just be that you're ahead of the pack when it comes to those technologies.
Definitely.
So now, Jillian, we have another polling question that we wanted to get to. And so I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you very much. I am sending that to the audience now. Again, you will hear an alert when it does pop up on your screen. And this question is, what area is most important to you and your organization to track and report? And there are several answers to choose from.
Thanks. So we'll take about 20 or 30 seconds to see what type of answers we get back. But essentially, this question is going to depend on each organization's environment and the different priorities that an organization may have. So, for instance, if you have a heavily outsourced environment, you may not be as interested in how productive your workforce is because the remaining workforce may be minimal. Whereas the service provider spend may be of more interest. So ISG Inform allows us to look at a number of these different areas, but it should be interesting to see what sort of the mix is.
Yeah, the answers seem to be a little spread across the board, but the winner, I will send the results to everyone, but it looks like the winner is A, with B as a close second.
Yep, and that makes sense. Unit cost and overall IT spend is going to be driving a lot of the conversations coming down from leadership, from the CIO, CFO. So it's really important to get a handle on that and understand the gaps to market.
I think too, Chris, from the experiences we have with clients when we're in there supporting them, is that service levels are not always well defined. Maybe a lot of the times they're just implied. And productivity, I think a lot of our clients don't really understand or know the best way to measure productivity. So you're right, it makes sense that the first two, especially with cost being such a big focus in IT.
Yep, for sure. So just a bit more on ISG Inform. We wanted to also show how you can drill down into different service areas. And so for this example, across the top, we're showing the IT infrastructure dashboards, and you can see the different service areas that can be selected. And even within those service areas, in servers and network, we have further drop downs where you can select by platform, by network service, LAN, voice, and see those individually compared to, again, different market data and different filters. Here the filter is scale. And so what we found as you start to drill down into specific service areas, it's really not the industry that's driving the comparison, but the scale. And so as you get to higher scale, you're going to see better productivity and efficiency and lower unit cost. You can also input and model different scenarios. So if you're looking to compare between the different market filters and different scenarios, you can take each of the scenarios and hit the compare button in the top right. And what you'll see on screen are the different compare scenarios and the different market data that you can select. So anything that shows up in the dashboard as a filter is market data that you can compare to and select within the compare screen. And then you can also select your own scenarios. So in this example, we have current state and future state, but that could be maybe 2019 and 2020 if I'm looking at how I'm performing against last year and this year, or I can look at 2020 versus 2021 if I want to look at maybe my forecasted budget and my trajectory towards either reducing cost or implementing new services and technologies. But it also can do scenario modeling around mergers and acquisitions, or maybe I'm changing my IT strategy, and I'm moving to a cloud implementation, or I'm outsourcing or offshoring. All of those sorts of scenarios and models can be input into the tool and then compared against different filters. So now I'm going to hand it off to Tom, and he's going to show how ISG Inform can address specific business solutions that may be affecting you today.
I think that actually I'm going to do this with Tom, so this is Kathy.
That is correct, yes.
So let's bring this together for you. Chris gave me a really good segue there at the end where he talked about how you could use ISG Inform to help you think through an impending merger or an acquisition, or even a divestiture. We have one client that knew that they were going to be going through a acquisition, and so they were able to load in their current IT spend and then create a scenario, so current co, and then they created a scenario for the acquisition, and then they created the combined co. And they were able then to look at not only the IT performance of the current company with the company they were acquiring to see where were some benefits on either side, so who had better unit costs, different service levels, but can create the combined view to understand where the efficiencies and synergies would be of the newly combined organization. It then helped them lay out some plans for areas to decommission quickly. So, for example, they had multiple storage environments. They needed to figure out which storage environment was the best one to keep and which one was going to be the one that they wanted to decommission. So those types of things were available to them in viewing against those different scenarios. They were also able to understand from a market perspective what should their productivity look like, where were the market service levels, and decide on which service levels they may go forward with for their business. So it gave them that insight on where could they reduce costs, where could they improve productivity, and what kind of headcount would they need. It also let them have a view between the organizations who were very different in makeup between contractors, managed services, and FTEs, what was going to be the best mix of their teams going forward. So great use case there, or solution. In terms of portfolio comparison, so let's jump over into the application space. We had one client who was really curious to see how their application teams performed against one another. So they created scenarios of each of their different application portfolios, fed in the information, and then were able to see what type of quality they were receiving, what kind of velocity in terms of releases, what kind of staffing mixes they had, and then in terms of that staffing mix, how did that then drive their overall unit cost, as well as what was the differences in the onshore and offshore mixes between those portfolio teams, as well as giving them the market view or market perspective on where they should be in terms of the performers that were loaded into them as a data set. One thing that we're also able to do is provide customized reference comparisons, so that there's a universe of data that's already innate in ISG Inform, but through working with ISG, we can also help build out a very customized reference group for you if you're looking for specific peers or specific sizes or specific industries and views. Chris talked a little bit about how you might use this for budgeting or baselining. So it's going to help you look at your, what was my 2019 budget, what's my 2020 budget, and then where am I to my estimate to actual. So where am I trending compared to last year, and where am I trending in terms of my budget commitment into my actual spend, and can help you make some course corrections if you see something that's out of, that's not trending the way that it should be. Another client was very interested in building up and understanding how to look at some pricing in terms of a chargeback or a showback. So they were able to load their information into Informax and get some unit pricing, as well as an understanding of what was underlying that unit price. So they could explain in a service catalog view the services that they were offering and at the price that they were offering it, as well as understand where the market was, so that they could understand if there was areas that they could drive further efficiencies and continue to derive greater benefit to the business by reducing their overall run costs and potentially moving that into transformational or change types of activities. And then there's just the overall performance optimization. So many of our clients are really looking to understand just the brass tacks. Where do I compare in terms of cost, quality, and productivity? How does my IT spend as a percent of revenue? Am I spending enough per employee on IT? Where are our opportunities to improve our efficiency and effectiveness? And what are we doing really well? So where are we really providing value and strength back to our business in terms of the IT services that we deliver? So lots of different ways to use the tool, lots of different views and ways to solve some of your challenges. But I think really what a lot of people find in terms of value is just getting that external market perspective. Many of you mentioned earlier that you're looking at your IT spend as a percent of revenue. You're looking at your IT spend per service tower, which is great. But then you need that external perspective to say, is this good? Or should it be better? And that's what this can give you right at your fingertips. And it's really cool in the sense that you can also go in and then make some changes. So if you say, well, what if we divested of this area, or what if we sourced this area, or what if we changed our onshore offshore mix? What happens to our price point, and how does that then compare to the market? So I think the scenario modeling is also an innately effective tool. In terms of who would use the tool, a lot of people say to us, well,
Kathy, if I could
sure.
interject,
oh, sure.
And go back to that
yeah.
side. There was some great insight into use cases for ISG Inform. Is there any one use case, though, or business solution use case that stands out above all others that we're seeing subscribers to Inform utilize more than the others?
Well, I think, the basic performance optimization, just really where do I stand from a cost, quality, and productivity perspective. A surprising one for us was the merger and acquisition view. or divestitures, and how that can be leveraged to make some comparisons and really understand the synergies and where you can go after and reduce spend or understand what your team composition should be. One thing that I did, so I'm happy you brought this up, forget to mention, a lot of times we'll have a new CIO. CIOs tend to move around quite a bit, and they really just want to have a baseline of the organization. And this is a really great way to graphically show them, what are your key KPIs from an overall perspective compared to your industry, and then getting that next click down into your infrastructure, applications, and digital areas to show you where do you stand, where are you. It helps them really start to become familiar with the teams, the way the services are comprised, and what is really driving from a business perspective the way that the services are offered. So that's a great one as well, as that new CIO budget analysis. Thanks for bringing that up.
Excellent. No, that was great insight.
And I think that's a good segue into personas or who is using the tools. And typically, they're not the ones putting the data in and running the scenarios. That's typically someone from IT finance, or oftentimes there's a TBM office. And I should mention that these metrics are very much aligned with the technology business management taxonomy, or the ADAM model, if that's something that you're using. It's also very industry standard. The industry standard nature of the KPIs and metrics in the tool obviously allow us to do those market comparisons. But so what they're doing is providing to the CIO on a quarterly basis an update to their cost, quality, productivity, their industry views and measures, using the reporting feature within InformX to deliver those results. A lot of people also do screen grabs, throw them into PowerPoint, and write some commentary on the trending. The CFO, obviously, in terms of, or the IT finance team in general, looking at where their spend is, if there's areas for improvement in spend, and then as they initiate new projects or goals in terms of spend reduction, they're using InformX to measure and track that progress. In terms of CMO and digital executives, there's been a really great response to the KPIs and measures that we have around digital and how digital is impacting different industries, where people are placing their dollars and effort around digital and the value that they're receiving for that. I believe it's pretty unique in the industry in terms of instant results that you can receive around digital initiatives and ongoing measurement and tracking of those and the value you're receiving. In terms of just general infrastructure and applications, these are your teams on the ground, so you're maybe the CTO or the CIO and his direct reports. It's giving them a way to look at and measure and manage the efficiency of those teams. I had one interaction with a client, and he said, if I could have ever had the information and the data and KPIs from the application management and development, I would have been a hero. We have just had no comprehensive way of collecting that information and looking at it in a visual way in a common language that we could all talk about. He was just really so excited about how he could leverage that information from an application perspective. But I really believe that it drives a common language and a common way of speaking about IT performance and delivering that back to an organization. Tom, anything that you were thinking of or that I may have missed in how we see people leveraging the tool?
No, I thought you did a phenomenal job of covering pretty much all the business use cases and the personas for ISG Inform. I do believe now, I think it's time for our third polling question.
Oh,
Billy,
absolutely.
can you share that with us?
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. So the final question we have coming to you guys will pop up momentarily. This question is, what is your primary driver to use a product or tool to deliver IT metrics?
So we're hoping that all of you join the webinar today to better understand ways to look at and talk about and create a common language around IT metrics. So what are some of the things you're thinking of? Is it a good way to expose your inefficient gaps and look at how you can improve compared to the industry? Is it to better understand what those common KPIs are that can allow you to do those apples to apples or peer comparisons? Oftentimes it's ease of use. I know a lot of clients that we work with say we have a million measures, we have all these spreadsheets, and guess what? No one really pays attention anymore. What measures should we be tracking? What are some of the core common measures other organizations look at? And how can we make it easier for us to communicate these to our stakeholders? And then I think a lot of people are also looking for a way to do some scenario modeling and forecasting. So let's see where the audience is thinking. So it looks like, ease of use of standard reports. That seems to be almost neck and neck with finding out where the gaps are. So where do we have opportunities for improvement? And I always like to say strengths also. So those two look like they are pretty neck and neck. And the last is a tool to support scenario modeling. So people probably, that one's not as important as some of these really core functionality that we see. Okay. Now I will turn it over to Tom, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about how you can gain access to ISG Inform.
Thank you, Kathy. Chris, and you did a phenomenal job so far of giving some insight into the capabilities of the platform. ISG Inform is a subscription-based platform with multiple levels of access, starting at just $30,000. Currently, there are 3 levels you can choose from to gain access to Inform. Each level includes logins for up to 5 users, with additional logins available if you determine there's a need for, say, additional staff to have access to the valuable data contained within the platform. The entry level access is for 3 months and is designed for an organization that just really wants to understand how their IT spend compares to their peers or competition, and frankly, how to close that gap. It includes 8 hours of consulting, which allows you to gain insight into the nuances of the data, if there are specific trends that should be paid attention to, et cetera. In addition, our ISG experts can help you interpret those results that you're seeing and give insights into the performance, into your performance relative to peers. The second level of access to the platform builds upon those previously mentioned deliverables and includes the same logins for 5 users with additional login blocks available in 5 user increments. This option includes a 1-year subscription to ISG Inform and is geared really towards an organization that continuously desires to track their IT performance over a period of time. We include 30 hours of consulting with this option. And here, though, we move away from the traditional directional insights and towards more actionable, say, recommendations. We also include a custom report that quantifies the results and provides performance recommendations. And finally, the third level of access to Inform, we call it our signature benchmark option, is a significantly more comprehensive engagement and is frankly designed for an IT organization looking for, say, an enhanced set of KPIs and a full benchmark report with actionable recommendations. This engagement, if you will, typically runs for, say, 6 to 10 weeks. We help you collect the data, validate the data, load the data into the platform, et cetera. Here we include interactive meetings with ISG consultants to communicate the results and help you model scenarios for, say, performance improvement and greater operational efficiencies. Lastly, as part of this option, we have a leave behind, which includes logins for 5 people for 3 months and an additional 10 hours of consulting to help you further understand and interpret the results you're seeing. Okay. Now I believe it's time to turn this over to you, the audience, for any question and answers. And Jillian is going to take that on.
All right, thanks, Tom. Yes, we do have several questions to get to. The first question is, do you have clients use this tool to help justify intercompany transfer pricing? Kathy, do you want to take this one?
Sure. I think you could use it at a high level to see if you're in the range of the market. in terms of intercompany transfer pricing, I would assume that that is based on a very specific set of services and service offerings and build up. It may take a little bit more of a bespoke benchmark, but I think that you could use it for your baseline for sure. And then if you see that you're out of a range, you know, ISG could obviously help you with a more detailed build up in that instance.
Okay, thanks, Kathy. Next question is, how is the data in the ISG Inform platform collected?
Chris, you want to take that one?
Yep, I can answer that. So we have a couple different ways to input the data into the tool. So the first way is obviously easily through the tool itself, and there's an input screen that you can go through the questions. There's help options, so you can use the hover over options to see what we specifically mean when we ask for your overall network spend for the year. There's also a FAQ and a glossary to help you through those steps. The other way is, because we know organizations and people really like to use Excel, within the tool itself is an Excel-based data collection worksheet. And there you can go through and either enter the data yourself, or you can send the data over to ISG, and ISG can help with the mapping, which we've done with a number of clients, especially TBM clients where the mapping's pretty straightforward, and get that data into the tool in that way.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, next question. How often does the industry data move to make this useful after a single point in time?
Okay, so we have been endeavoring to update the data on a 6-month rolling basis. One of the new functions that we're going to put into the tool, or features, is a way to pause the data, so you can say which data set you wanted to compare to. So for example, if you had run all your scenarios and modeling off of the 2019 data set, you can select which data set you would like to compare to. So we'll allow you the option to say, I want to look at the 2019 Q4 data set versus the 2020 Q1 data set. We're looking for more feedback from our clients. Some clients said that the data moving every 6 months is a little bit tricky for them, because they're basing some of their guidance off of the data set that they originally had. So that's why we're going to be creating a feature that'll allow you to hold it on whichever data set you're most comfortable with. If we get more and more feedback from clients that they say they'd like us to only do it once a year, we'd consider the once a year option as well.
Yeah, and I would say, just from my benchmarking experience, typically 6 months is really when it might be material. Oftentimes it's not material impacts to the actual data. When you start to get into like monthly or even quarterly, I think the focus then is more on your individual data and making sure you're maintaining and updating your forecast and your budget. But the overall unit costs and productivity isn't accelerating that fast to have material impacts on the overall KPIs on a monthly or quarterly basis, at least in my experience.
Very helpful. Thank you both. And the next question we have is, what application KPIs do you track?
Oh, good question. So we do it from the kind of a top down. We look at your overall spend between application maintenance and development. We then look at the percent of spend around the types of applications that you're supporting. So are they commercial off the shelf? Are they software as a service? Is it ERP? So we break it down by the types of, or fully bespoke. From there, we look at the types of team composition you have. So what percent is managed service versus contractors versus employees? What is your onshore, offshore mix? We look at defect rates. We look at release rates. We look at cost per hour worked. We look at your SDLC breakdown. So where are you spending your time and effort? We look at the cost per contact. We look at release rates in terms of feature requests and incidents. So we really try to run the gambit across both application maintenance and development, Chris, I'm sure I'm forgetting something.
Yeah, you covered most of them. We also look at enhancements and defects by application, close rate, defect severity. It's intended to be high level for applications, but just applications in general tends to be or need a more detailed view. So across all of the dashboards we offer, our application development and maintenance is the more comprehensive one.
All right, I think we have time for one more question before I hand things over to Tom to discuss a special offer for our attendees. And the final question we have today is, can you tell us more about the types of companies or organizations that are in the database?
Sure. The database itself spans, I think, pretty much every one of the, what you would consider the Forbes industries. It was probably a little hard to see on the screen that Chris showed you the drop down of industries, but there's pretty much every top industry that you could imagine in Informex. And in terms of the numbers and types of companies, it varies by industry. We've had specific asks from our clients to share with them when we can the number of clients per industry, and as well as the sub-verticals within an industry. So in terms of manufacturing, is it, what type of manufacturing is it? Is it automotive, aerospace and defense? So what is in the database? And those are questions that we can absolutely answer as part of your access, and we do and have for our clients. So what's the number of peers in there, and where we are able to, because of our agreements with our clients, we're also able to name the company names. Oftentimes it's anonymous, but more often than not, we are also able to give you an idea of the actual companies that are included in the data set.
Yeah, and I would also add that one of those access options included custom reference groups. So oftentimes in a traditional benchmark, we're looking at specific set of peers, or there's specific complexity and scoping factors that an organization wants to make sure that we match. And so we have the ability in the tool to upload a custom reference group set. So if there are specific requirements that you have for a company to compare to, we can select those outside of the tool and then upload it into the tool so that you have access to it.
All right, thank you for that. And I will turn things over to Tom now for our special offer.
Thank you, Jillian. Appreciate the shout out. So lastly, as we mentioned, we do have a special offer. That special offer is the first 3 people on this live webinar to contact me via email will be given a free ISG Inform test drive. This test drive will include the ISG Inform team entering your data into the platform. We will then schedule a mutually convenient time for a WebEx and share those results directly with you. In this test drive, we'll show you how your IT spend, IT staffing, and IT investments compare to your peers. You'll gain insight into your spend as a percent of revenue and spend per user, and a perspective into how your budget expenditures compare across the 3 main buckets of IT: infrastructure, applications, and management. Also, we'll include insights into your digital readiness capabilities. In summary, you'll receive a fast, high-level IT baseline comparison on how your IT landscape looks today and how it compares to others. Act quick. We do anticipate this offer will fill up fast. Thank you, and I will turn this back over to Jillian to wrap us up for the day.